Welcome to Love Light, the only podcast dedicated to bright, fine art photography. Hosted by Sarah Jane Ethan, Love Light is here to celebrate all things bright, pretty and pastel. At Love Light, white is the new black and beauty is in the detail. This is your place to relax, a place to belong, a place to be inspired and connect with like-minded colleagues who share your passion for light and beauty. So come and introduce yourself in the Love Light Facebook group and subscribe to the Love Light YouTube, podcast and Instagram for your weekly dose of inspiration and connect with bright, fine art photographers from around the world.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Love Light podcast. Today we're going to have a brilliant interview. Today we've got Jenny Quicksall. Jenny Quicksall is a photographer from South California, where she lives with her husband and her two children, Abby and Ali. And she started her photography company in 2013 after graduating from an MBA in marketing and began photographing weddings in the summer of 2016. She then subsequently won California Wedding Day Best Photographer 3 years in a row and has been published in various wedding publications, including being on the front cover of Inside Weddings. And you do not have to look at Jenny's work for very long to see how incredibly stunning and beautiful it is. And I swoon over her Instagram feed on a regular basis. And I'm incredibly honored that she's agreed to come on the podcast today. So Jenny, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. And we're so grateful for you to come and share your story with us. And you've had a very interesting journey, because photography was not the thing that you studied. And
No,
things suddenly changed. So tell us about how that transition happened for you, how you got into photography when your qualification was in something very different.
Yeah, so I have always been just the family and friends and family photographer, and did a lot of different family shoots of all my friends and family. And I did graduate with economics and psychology in undergrad, and I worked as a project manager for several years after that. And then I went back to school and got my MBA in marketing. And thinking that I kind of wanted to pivot and change my career a little bit, because I really wasn't having a fun time in the corporate job that I was in. The 9 to 5 didn't really suit me, and I wasn't happy. So after having my first child, Abby, I had my maternity leave, and then I came back to work for a few months and then realized, you know what, this really isn't for me. So I reluctantly told my husband, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I want to change my career. And so I decided to quit my job at that time, and then realized, gosh, like, I went and got my MBA, and now I've quit work. Now what do I do?
Wow.
So, I decided that not doing anything wasn't an option for me. So I said, okay, well, why don't we just explore what photography can do for me and where that can take me. So everything that I'm doing and that I've done is all self-taught.
Wow.
And so for those of you out there who are thinking of doing photography, like, listen, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
I love that.
And I think that's such an important thing to, for everybody to know. And is that really with hard work and dedication, like, you can, it's a skill that you can learn and that you could practice and anyway, so where was I? So I decided, okay, well, I'm going to see where this takes me. So I said, okay, I've always loved weddings. I've always wanted to get into weddings, but I was afraid of jumping right into wedding photography, because there's a lot of pressure in weddings, I think, to, do things the right way, make things look pretty. And at the time, I know how to take photos, but I really didn't have that look yet. I didn't really develop my style, the way I want to interact with my clients and all that stuff, because that takes time. So I said, okay, let's just stick with children and family for a few years and make sure that everything in my business is all lined up, from the intake all the way through to the delivery of the photos. And so once I got that all figured out, and I, of course, did hundreds of sessions, um, and found, my voice, found my style, found the way I'd like to edit and everything. Then I said, okay, I think I'm ready to do weddings. And so I did my first wedding in May of 2016. And oh my gosh, I never looked back. Like it was, I did it and I fell in love with it all. You know, one of the reasons why I love it so much is I'm a people person. I love being around people. I love learning about, people's stories, and I just love the fact that I am able to be there on a wedding day and really be a part of somebody else's celebration. And I love it. Everybody's happy. Everybody's, in love. And it just to be there and to witness all that and to be able to document that for people. I mean, that's it. That's just, what I love.
Yeah, it's the same for me. Like I buzz off the atmosphere on a wedding day. I say to people, it's the best office atmosphere ever.
Right?
I get to work in this atmosphere where everybody's happy and everyone's having a lovely time.
Oh my gosh. And then, especially, during the reception time where everybody's dancing and having a good time. I mean, I really like to get right in the middle of the dance floor, right in the middle of the action. And because, that's what we do. We capture moments. And so we have to be in the moments to be able to capture those moments. Right. So
true.
And that's what I love. And I get energy from other people. And so that's why I feel like I, belong in the wedding world.
Yeah, that makes so much. I'm exactly the same when they're dancing. I often think I should market myself as the singing photographer because I'm quite often like on the dance floor singing away, like taking the pictures. Because like you said, I feel like if I'm in the day enjoying it, I think that's going to show in the pictures that I wasn't just an observer. I was actually a part of what was going on. And
and I don't know, I think we wear different hats, I think, throughout the day. Especially for me, I always tell my clients, listen, I'm not just, one type of a photographer on a wedding day, because I feel like we have to wear different hats throughout, right? The very beginning part of the day, I'm getting right into the details and the styling of invitation suites and, shoes and jewelry and all that good stuff. So really that first part of my day is, I put on my styling hat and, sit there and play around with the flat lays. I love flat lays. Probably another reason why I love weddings.
It's a good excuse to play with flat lays.
and details, and so, and then, another part of the day is really, it's, for you to be an observer and to be to document the things that are happening. During a ceremony, you're just kind of, walking around, making sure you're capturing the moments, the reactions, the parents crying, the grandparents, being there. And then you have your other parts of the day where, how do I say this? Like I lead my clients, not through poses, like stagnant poses, but I kind of lead them through movements, which then become the poses that you see in my work. And so so then you put your art director hat on and say, okay, this is how I want to lead you through these movements for portraits. And then of course then you're documenting again during the reception and all that good stuff. So oftentimes I do get asked, oh, what kind of photographer, what kind of a wedding photographer are you? And I can't
you tell them that you're all of them. I'm all
myself.
The photographers.
Yeah. I mean, in my own, style and in my own way, I am. I definitely can't do other people's styles.
No, totally. But no, it makes so much sense. And it makes sense what you're describing. It's like different hats for different parts of the day. That makes so much sense.
Yeah. And it's important that people understand that it's not just like, oh, I will just always sit back and and be a fly on the wall and just document and follow you guys as the day goes, because sometimes you have to interject. Sometimes you're working with couples who need a bit more direction in how to pose and all that good stuff. It's really, you just kind of have to gauge and see how the day goes. And
yeah. And it's something that I notice about your work, and I love and I connect with personally, because I like people moving and laughing, and I notice that about your work, and that you're not afraid to get people moving, play silly games. I can see that you're getting them dancing together, and I like the natural movements and the laughter. And so that's not that common in the fine art world, because it can be a more posing heavy than playing games, and getting people laughing. So why did you go down that route of actually just, because you have to let go of a bit of control, because you're not going to be able to make sure that her hand is in exactly the right place, and that and so it's a bit more fluid and a bit more unpredictable. But what is it that you like about that way of shooting portraits?
I think it creates more genuine, emotive photographs. And that's what I love about it. I want to be able to look at a photograph and really connect with, not only the subjects, but how they're feeling and the moment that they're in. And don't get me wrong, like I do have, times in the portraits where I have them, pose and have, make sure that everything looks great and whatnot. But I feel like there should be a balance in the types of photographs, because for me, it's you want the beautiful portraits, and we should be able to, provide our couples beautiful portraits, but also show them, kind of how they were feeling that day, because when they go back through the photos, I want them to go back to not only pretty pictures, but go back to their emotions of the day.
Yes.
And that to me is really important, because I look back at my wedding photos and I remember, gosh, I was feeling that, oh my gosh, this part's going to make me cry. But I remember specifically when we were doing our first look, and I was so emotional. I was crying before I even saw Jake, my husband, and just the anticipation of him coming and seeing him for the first time. I just started bawling. And yes, those photos like of me ugly crying with like all sorts of like weirdnesses showing, yes, those aren't like the beautifully posed portraits, but it brought me back to that day, and it brought me back to how I was feeling.
Yes.
And gosh, what a gift, that for us to be able to do that, and to again not only be able to document and give our clients beautiful portraits, but to give them back the ability to go back to that day and emotionally feel that day.
Yes.
And so that's just anyway, I'm babbling on about.
Yeah, I totally get it. I quite often say to people, when you look at your pictures, I want you to remember how in love you were, because marriage is hard, and there will be times when you just want to throw in the towel and quit. And I kind of hope that my pictures will take them back to how they felt when they decided to commit to the long haul with each other, and it might help just recapture the motivation and like, no, I want this, let's work on this. I just think if they can see themselves, their real selves in the pictures, that might help them just connect with it and help keep, I don't know, the love alive, I suppose.
Yes. I think that's important, and you can look back at your photos and reminisce and it's just bring the love back.
So it sounds like you are the queen of flat lays. You love flat lays. Do you have any tips and tricks for
not
getting
consider myself Sorry, I was going to say I would not consider myself a queen of flat lays.
I mean, in the sense that I am the queen of Tupperware. I love Tupperware. I have quite a lot of Tupperware in my house. That kind of queen. Someone, has a particular passion for it. And so, do you have any tips and tricks for flat lays and how you like to do them? Do you have backdrops companies that you prefer? Do you know their backdrops, or like tell me about the world of flat lays, because it's not one that I ventured into very much. So I want to know everything there is to know about flat lays.
Yes, flat lays. I am one of those photographers who bring their flat lay kits to weddings.
Love it.
Ahead of time, I typically work with a wedding planner and I ask, okay, so what do their invitation suites look like? Do they have vow books? Do they have menu cards? Any paper goods that they have? I'd like to know ahead of time. I'd like to usually see what they look like, the colors, particularly, so then I can then bring the correct flat lay or the styling board, because I have many, many different colors at this point. It's
how many
kind of a collection, but
how many do you have? A lot.
Gosh, I don't
Do you not even know?
But I have several. I have all the colors from all the neutrals pretty much.
Yes.
But yeah, so I have a good 8 or so different
but it just gives you the flexibility to be creative on the day, go with what you feel fits with their styling and
and so I bring all that with me. I bring styling boards, I bring the little Mrs. boxes, the ring boxes, I bring oh my gosh, my friend she created Taylor from Sourced Co. She created these acrylic risers.
Okay.
And I kid you not, they are so they're my go-to. I bring those little risers everywhere I go because when you're creating a flat lay, it's really to me important to create depth and levels. And the way I do that is I bring the Sourced Co. risers and I stick them under the paper goods. So then they're, different levels, and I could kind of, put one underneath the other to create a more, so then it's not just all flat on the ground, dimension. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, amazing.
Looking for words and I can't find them right now, but so to create dimension with the paper products that you're working with. And so so as soon as I get to a wedding, I always say, okay, give me all the paper goods, and I start kind of manipulating it and figuring out, okay, first of all, what is this invitation telling me? I know it's kind of silly if you think about it that way, but some invitation suites are very modern, very sleek, very just black and white and just very minimal writing, right? And others are beautifully handwritten calligraphy with, gold foil and all sorts of fun things. And to me, when I first look at an invitation suite, before I style it, I always ask myself, what is this invitation saying to me? Like, how do you want to be styled? I know
I love that,
weird, right?
I think that's great.
How would you like your story to be told?
I love that.
But in a way, that's how I start it, and I say, okay, well, this particular one, the invitation suite lends itself to a very modern, sleek look. So the flowers that I get from the florist that morning and the way I style is very linear and symmetrical. Right. Just to keep with the theme of the invitations and most likely their wedding day, because if a client has a very clean and modern invitation, I'm assuming that their entire design for their wedding day is very sleek, modern, and clean as well.
Right.
So, these are all things that I work with the wedding planner ahead of time, just so then I,
Yes.
make sure I'm on the same page about their design.
Yes.
Whereas, other invitation suites, I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, you're very florally, and and it would
Yeah.
be fun to, like, instead of like little tiny blooms, to like really even use stems of a flower and just make this
Yeah.
very, fluid kind of
Wow.
a flat lay. So anyway, I could talk about flat lays all day long,
I love it.
but yes, but I do look at what I'm working with, and I say,
Mhm.
okay, like, how is this particular thing speaking to me? And
Yeah.
then that will determine how I style that
Yes.
particular flat lay.
Oh, I love that though, because you're being sensitive to what the style of the wedding is, not just doing your
Yeah,
own thing, but actually
yeah,
having integrity with who your client is and what they
yeah,
like, and they're even more
yeah.
likely to like the picture, afterwards, because
Yes. I
you've
hope
listened to
so.
them through their stationery, because their stationery says
Yeah,
something about
yeah,
them and what they like and who they are and how they present
right,
themselves, I suppose, to the world. So that
right,
so
right.
interesting. So for people who are just starting out with flat lays, getting into this world, what are some of the key things that you always photograph in a flat lay, and you always make sure that that is part of that photo?
Yeah. So, the invitation suite, is the first thing.
Mhm.
The invitation, the RSVP card, if they have a beautiful envelope liner, add that in there. Or if the front of the envelope is, has beautiful handwritten calligraphy, please add that in there. So all those parts of an invitation suite, I add. And then if I have time, what I do is I kind of like pull the invitation suite apart and say, okay, like, let's just do the main invitation and like have that be the center of the, of attention on the flat lay. So other than that, vow books. A lot of my couples have vow books, and so I make sure that
Right.
I photograph their vow books.
Mhm.
Usually ahead of time, I say, "Hey, make sure your groom doesn't have his vow books in his room. Just make sure that all the details are all together."
That is a good tip.
Yes, vow books, and then of course their jewelry, the rings, the engagement ring, and then the two wedding bands, and then any other paper goods, whether it be menu cards, escort
Ah,
cards,
yeah.
all those other things. I think one, it's fun and beautiful to photograph, but two, it kind of tells the story of the day as well.
Yes.
And then also the stationery companies would really like that too, because then they can have the photos.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That actually
Yeah.
helps you work
Have
with other suppliers and network,
Yes,
which I
yes,
think is
yes.
something that actually you're very passionate about, is networking within the industry. Talk to me about
Mm,
why that's so important for you.
gosh, when I first started, I really didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
When everybody starts, no one really knows anybody. And I Oh my gosh. I want to tell you this story of how I went about networking and doing my research ahead of time.
Yeah.
So I, oh my gosh, you're gonna think I'm a complete nerd when I tell
Ah!
you this story.
I just
I,
literally have no idea what's coming. I'm like on the edge of my seat with suspense.
okay, so because I have my background in marketing in
Yes.
my MBA, yes, I'm a creative by nature. I love creating things, and by way of my photography.
Mhm.
But one of the things that I learned in my program is that you have to be very strategic in any marketing, any I want to talk about branding, but like not really. This is just strictly like marketing and how you like
Yeah.
reach out to people, and how do you find your niche and all that good stuff. So
Yeah.
when I first started, I said, okay, I took an Excel spreadsheet
Yeah.
and I listed out all the venues that are around me.
Yeah.
And then in the next column, I wrote down what kind of a venue it was, whether it's an outdoor venue, if it's a vineyard, if it's a ballroom, if it's any of that.
Yeah.
Then it then tells me, okay, like I obviously like outdoor natural light kind of venues better than I like ballroom, venues and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And then from there, I then researched the wedding planners, the
Wow.
florists, the caterers, anybody and everybody
Wow.
who worked those particular venues.
Yeah.
And then on a different tab, I started a list of all the different wedding planners, of all the different florists, of all the different hair and makeup companies, just people who, worked at those venues.
Yeah.
And then from that list, then I said, okay, now going into, and then of course with social media, it's so easy to research
Yes.
all of this, really. So from there, I looked at that list and said, okay, of these people, who is it that create work that connect with me, that's similar to my style? And so then you go from there and say, okay, these are the people that I think would, really be good for me to connect with.
Yeah.
Again, it's not just wedding planners, it's really other photographers, other, like I said, the hair, makeup, florists, and anybody really. And so then from there, I started connecting. I reached out and I, introduced myself. I'm a new wedding photographer in the area. I would love to, get a tour of your venue. I would like to, if it's a venue, if it's anybody else, if it's any other vendors, I'd like to grab a cup of coffee and just, pick your brain about the industry and, to kind of show you what, my packages are and see if I'm, off base or, just to kind of do your due diligence in researching like what the market bears, for new photographers that are coming in to the industry. So anyway, so long story short,
I love that. I love the story there. That's brilliant. That is probably one of the most practical step-by-step, how do you actually start photographing weddings little plan I've ever heard. That was incredible. So good. So good.
I know, but it took a while, to research, and
yes,
then it took a while to kind of start reaching out and networking with people. But now that I'm a few years in or so, the one thing I do want to really say and iterate is that it's not about the number of people that you network with. It really isn't. It's really the connection and the deep relationship that you can create with those people that are like-minded, and that support you and that, can be that person to bounce back ideas with and all that good stuff. So really it's, yes, in the beginning, please, go out, network, introduce yourself to people. That's really important. But, from there, it's really identifying, okay, who, in the industry do I connect with? And from there, you really want to, just kind of, I don't know, okay, good. I'm missing words again. But basically you want to create relationships that, are meaningful. And, and those are the types of relationships that I think not only help you, in your business, but like really help you as a person to grow.
So true. And as a creative, like, I often say this, other suppliers are creatives too, just in different.
Yes.
And so their creativity can inspire your creativity.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so practical. That's really helpful.
Is it?
Yeah, I think that is, because I think, a lot of people starting out in photography, it's like, where do you start? Yeah. And for people who are facing the challenge of moving to another city, as well. So you
Mhm.
have to start again from scratch. And that is just such a
Yeah.
practical way of doing it. But like you said, it just takes that bit of extra effort to
Mhm.
just do the research, and it's
Yes. Yeah.
laborious and a bit repetitive. But by the end of it, you've identified those people that are good suppliers for you to connect with, that are
Yes.
connected with
Yeah.
venues you want to work with, and so
Correct.
you've created
Correct.
roads that are
Yeah.
then very easy to travel on with
Yeah.
your business.
Yeah. Listen, you can go out there and you can, just throw your business cards out like left, right, and center. But making sure that you do everything with intention
Mhm.
and knowing kind of, okay, this is the type of work I want to create, and this is who I would connect with or who would connect with my work
Yeah,
is yes, like you said, it takes a lot of work and a lot
yeah,
of patience,
yeah,
and it takes many hours just doing your research, but it does pay off. It did pay off in the end for me.
yeah.
Now I'm not saying that that's the only way to do it,
But it worked
but
for you, and that's the important thing.
yeah, but it worked for me. So
Yeah.
hopefully it'll work for somebody else.
Well, exactly. And I think, everybody just is gleaning, especially in those early days, it has much gleaning of stories from other people. You're just like, oh, okay. And
Yeah.
and you'll find techniques and routes that work for you, that just connect with you, and you just think, oh yeah, I could do that. I like making lists, or whatever it is. I really love that. So is that, you said, that was that approach because of part of your marketing background, that you've studied marketing, or was that just kind of like a fresh idea that you'd had, or
Um, yeah, I just think, and I know this from school, and just I think intuitively, I know that. Listen, you've got your brand. That's branding. That's a whole beast on itself.
yeah,
Um, but when you're trying to market yourself and you're trying to enter into an industry, um, it's really best to know and do your research ahead of time.
yeah,
So then you can be laser focused in what it is that you're going to do. Um, because then I just feel like that takes a lot of the guessing game out of
mm,
things, and then in the end will save you heartache and time.
yeah.
So that's how I approached entering into the wedding world, and yeah, so I think it does. I don't know. I guess that's how my brain works.
Yeah.
I'm all about okay. Let's do this. Let's do the research ahead of time, so then it, like you said, it paves the road, and it makes it a little bit, hopefully, a little bit easier.
I
So
love that. And so what other
not to say that
aspects?
it's easy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's none of it's easy, is it? But if you
No.
can find the bits that you enjoy, and that's the thing. I think you're
Mhm.
clearly a methodical person, and you enjoy having everything clearly laid out in front of you, so that you
Yeah.
know exactly what you're doing. And so,
Yeah.
find a way forward. And I think this is always my general take on things in life. You've got to be aware of what you enjoy and what you're good at, and what sucks the life out of you, and what one
Yes.
photographer really enjoys doing and is good at. If you try and copy it, you're just going to die a death inside, because it's so
Oh.
stressful for you. It's just not your natural personality and the
Mm-mm.
way you function
Mm-mm.
within the world. And so you've just got to
Yeah.
go do what you are good at and what you really enjoy, without comparing yourself to anybody else, and without worrying
Oh.
that that's not enough. It is enough.
Oh my
You
gosh.
have enough to
That's
do what you need to do with your business.
oh boy, but that is easier said
Oh,
than done
right.
though.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh, self-doubt and
Mm,
the comparison game is
yeah.
oh so real.
Yeah.
It could be disheartening for people
Yeah.
that want to start and that look at other photographers and say, "Oh my gosh, like I can't do that. I don't know how to do that."
Yeah.
But really it's it takes the discipline to say, okay, that's them, that's their journey.
Yeah.
Their life is different than my life,
Yeah.
and their voice is different than my voice.
Yeah.
The kinds of art that they want to create is different than the kind of art that I want to create. and to just be focused in on the work that you want to put out there. And
Yeah.
but oh gosh, that's so hard
Oh, it
because
really is.
it's so easy right now, with with social media and all that good stuff. You're just looking at, everybody
Mm.
else's adventures and
Yeah.
the work that they create, and you're just like, why am I not doing what they're doing?
Yeah. It's so true, and it makes
So
you lose the joy of what you've got and what your
yeah,
life looks like
yeah,
right now, and
yeah,
you miss it, don't you? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But there's it's a balance, and for me, it's the balance of um, I can look at other people's work,
Mm,
but I can't go down the rabbit hole of, oh my
mm.
gosh, why am I not doing that?
Yes.
But I like looking at other people's work,
Yeah.
thinking to myself, gosh, what can I learn from this?
Mm.
And to kind of put a fire under my booty a
Yeah.
little to say,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, nope, this is going to be my goal for this year or next year, or that,
Yeah.
or like my 5-year plan. I want to be doing XYZ things.
Yes.
So it's a two-edged sword. And I say, you know what, listen, just focus on what you're doing. And if you look at other people and say, okay, this is going to be inspirational to me versus detrimental to me, then
So
that's
good.
that's great. Yeah.
So good. Yeah, and I think it's being able to discern where that line is between something that's gonna
Yeah.
add life to you or take life from you, because it's
Right.
either
Right.
inspiring or it's like you said, it's detrimental, it's destructive
Yeah.
to your
Yeah.
confidence, or your sense of contentment and peace
Yeah.
with where you're
Yeah.
at. So that's so good.
Oh
Yeah.
goodness.
And I think, I spent a lot of time feeling like I was inadequate with my work because I wanted to look like this person's work, or this person's feed on Instagram looks like this, and I want my feed to look like that. So I start modifying my work and trying to change the way that I naturally work and edit to make my feed look like theirs. But then the picture itself, I like less. That
Yeah.
but it fits more with their what their feed looks like. And I think, I finally got to a place, and I think actually the Love Light community has helped me with that, to just be confident, this is what I like. And it's different from
Yes.
other people.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
kind of the point. You're very passionate about branding, and actually you need to be different. If you're not different, you
Correct.
don't stand out and you can't charge the big bucks. Like, see, you kind of have to have that confidence to go, this is me,
Right.
and I'm enjoying it.
Yes, exactly. I mean, and before like you even are ready to market yourself out there,
Mm.
branding is like the foundation of it all.
Yeah.
And no, branding is not just your logo or your colors of your website. It is everything. It
Mm.
starts with you.
Yeah.
And what you were saying, what you like, what you don't like, what moves you as an artist, like all these things.
Yeah.
It's That's what branding is.
Yeah.
And yes, it takes a while for all of us to get that voice
Yeah.
consistent. But I feel like without that, then how in the world would you market yourself
Mm.
and say, hi, this is,
Yeah.
hire me, this is who I am, without knowing who you are and what you like?
So
And,
true. So
you
true.
know, and your voice, that's so huge. And, just even knowing like who your target audience is, like
Mm.
who do you want to speak to
Yeah.
with your work? And listen, not everybody likes the light and airy,
Yeah.
film kind of, photos.
Yeah.
And because that doesn't speak to everybody, but
No.
that's okay, because that's the type of work that I do. And it's okay if I don't speak to everybody,
Yeah.
but those that I'm speaking to, that's who I want to get to.
Yes.
Then therefore, then you go into the whole marketing thing. So anyway.
But that takes a lot of confidence and self-discipline in and of itself, to be okay with the fact
Right.
that some clients will arrive on your website and say no thank you, and that's not a failure, and you haven't got to win that person round. And I think, you know, a lot of photographers try and be all things to all people, and you end up just losing yourself. My husband often refers to it as the Marmite effect. Have you come across Marmite? Has it made its way to America, or is that a British thing?
The what?
Marmite. Have you ever heard of Marmite?
No.
No, I think it's a British thing. So Marmite is this weird spread that people put on their sandwich, and it's incredibly strong. It smells really strong and it tastes very strong. Like, it's not fishy, but it's that kind of thing. Like, it's a strong, pungent, like, and people either love it or they hate it. And what I love about this is that Marmite actually brought that into their marketing and into their branding, and they created a whole TV advertising series, all based around on you either love it or you hate it. And they had people in the supermarket, and some people were just like climbing over people trying to get hold of this Marmite and putting it in their bags, you know, and other people were desperately trying to destroy it, you know, like just get it out there. And they almost were laughing at themselves and enjoying the fact that people, they polarized opinion with their spreads. Some people love it, some people hate it. And Matt was saying, you know, in the early days of our business, he was saying, you want to have a Marmite effect where some people love you and some people hate you. And if some people hate you, like, as in like, oh no, definitely not for me, that's a good thing, because you've started polarizing opinions. And if you polarize opinions, it means you will have some people who go, oh yes, you know. I get emails, probably a third of my clients every year book their wedding around my availability, and they're saying it's you or nobody, like, I just want you. And it's and so I had to be strong enough to be that there, because I battled self-doubt for a long time, because I felt like I'm different. I'm very different, and I'm not sure I'm okay with that. And I feel self-conscious, and I feel, but actually in real terms, it was working for business. It works. And I think it's the path of a leader, and leaders work in business and in photography as well. But you do have to be strong, you know, internally, to be okay with some people being like, oh no, it's definitely not.
Yeah, I mean, I start every meeting or inquiry call with my potential couples by asking them, have you really looked at my work? Does it speak to you?
Interesting.
Do you like the colors? Do you like the way I edit? Do you like just the way people are posed, or the moments that I capture? Do you like that?
Yes.
And, you know, most of the time, of course, they've done their research ahead of time, and that's the reason why they reached out to me. But sometimes I get clients that say, yeah, no, it's beautiful. And then when I say, have you really done your research? Have you looked at all these other photographers that have different styles than I do?
Yeah.
And, you know, once in a while I'll get, oh, no, what do you mean? What other styles are there? And then I show them other photographers with different styles.
Yeah. Just
so then they can see, okay, so this is Jenny, and here are all the other, you know, photographers different than her. And then they're able to make a more informed decision.
Yeah.
And again, they either say, oh yeah, no, Jenny, we like your style still, or they say, actually, thanks for showing me that other photographer, because I like that one better.
Yeah, which you kind of want. Yeah, you want them to be really happy. Yeah.
Right. At the end of the day, it's their wedding photos, and I don't want to be their photographer if, you know, at the end they go, oh, ooh, yeah, this is too film looking. I don't like this. You know, what is this? So
I love that story, because that's been my take on things as well. I actually I had a stint in car insurance before I started my gap year. When I finished college, and it is obviously incredibly pressured, and there was all kinds of tricks and techniques to try and pressure somebody into buying insurance that they may or may not need, or is not a good price for them, or a good product. And there was, I was always fine with giving up a sale if it wasn't the right product for them. Because in my opinion, good sales is connecting the right person with the right product for them. And if
Correct.
this is not the right product, then I don't want to sell it to you. You're not going to be
Correct.
happy, and I'm not going to be happy either.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
I remember being told off by my colleague because we had this technique where if somebody rang back and said, "Oh, can I speak to Erin?" On whatever, that you would know that they're ringing back to take out an insurance policy, and that carries a commission. So what you do is you put them on. You say, "Oh, no problem, I'll transfer you through." You put them on hold, and you just wait for a few minutes, and then you take them back off hold and you say, "Oh, I'm sorry, that extension's busy. Is there anything I can help you with?" Knowing full well that they're ringing to take out a policy, and then you get a commission and your entire team get a commission. Well, I'm not playing those kind of games.
No.
I want to be honest in every aspect of my life. So I would transfer the call through. So I did it this one time, got through to Erin, and I said, "Oh, hi, Erin, I've got Mrs. So-and-so on the phone. She'd like to take out a policy with you." And he was like, "Oh, thank you. Okay, yeah, put her through." He was like genuinely shocked that I was passing this through. Anyway, my colleague overheard me, and he turned around and he was like, "Did you just put that call through?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like,
Yes.
"Yeah." And the supervisor came over and they were like, "Don't pass those calls through like this." Anyway, at that point, I pointed at the leaderboard, and everybody on my team so far that week had got maybe 1 or 2 sales. I had 12. And I was like, "Look, whatever I'm doing, it's working." And I think it seems counterintuitive, but I'm convinced that it works because of this stint I had in car insurance. I was getting a reputation of being one of the top sales people in the company, and on my floor there was 4 floors and there was 2 people on every floor. And I was meeting people in the canteen. They were going, "SJ, are you that girl who sells all the policies on the 4th floor?" Do you know? And it's like I was getting this reputation of being a high seller, but I actually wasn't a seller. I was just trying to connect the right person with the right product, and I was very happy to let them go if it wasn't right for them. And there's this counterintuitive principle that actually, if you're happy to let people go if it's not the right product for them, you're actually more likely to attract the right people. I don't know how it works, but it definitely does.
The universe somehow knows, and it just brings the right people to you. So that's what it is. Good karma.
Totally. I think a lot of photographers panic and they run around trying to get everybody to book. And they'll say whatever they need to say and offer whatever they need to offer to get that person to book. And what you're saying is that's not the most important thing. It's finding the people who are going to be thrilled with your style of photography and therefore with their photos.
Yes. And I mean, it affects everything, right? So let's say I book a client that is so into my style, and I'm like, no, just book me. I'll do it. I'll do whatever it is that you want me to do. You want me to edit, dark and moody? Sure, I'll try to do that. But in the end, first of all, I can't do dark and moody. I can't do dark and moody as well as a dark and moody photographer can, because I can't. And I will be the first to say, everybody else that are in that realm can do it better than I can.
Yes.
And but really, at the end of the day, if your clients aren't happy with it, then guess what? Your reviews aren't going to be great. Then they're going to say, "Oh, well, yeah, Jenny wasn't all that great," because we weren't the right match to begin with.
Yes.
And to me, that's just a recipe for disaster. So from the very get-go, you have to make sure that you have clients that have that, I don't know, that connection with you, with your work, and that trust you, because then at the end of the day, that's the experience you want to give them, right? You want to be able to give them a fun day, but like also photos and memories that they love and that they're, proud to show everybody.
Yeah.
And then that way, then they're happy, and then their reviews are great, and then it's just word of mouth, and then it's a snowball effect, I think.
Yes. And you mentioned earlier that you can't sell the highlights of your work and the benefits of your work if you don't know what it is that makes you stand out. And so you kind of have to analyze yourself and your work so that you can sell it to a client. And you almost, because I think a lot of clients, they've never looked into photography before. They don't have expert eyes. They don't know what it is they're supposed to be looking for. And it's almost like going into an art gallery and going, I don't know what I'm supposed to be seeing. But if you've got somebody who loves that particular painting, goes, no, but if you look, and the intricate brush strokes, and this, and you go, oh, yeah, I can see it. I can see it now. And you're doing that through your branding. You're saying, like, this is what you should be noticing about my work, and this is what it's communicating. And it helps people go, oh, I see it. I see it now. And they have the opportunity to fall in love with it, or to go, oh no, definitely not for me.
Nope. Yeah. That triangle painting, not for me. I don't know why, but it is not.
Yeah. It is funny. I mean, people have totally different tastes, and the picture that you're just like, well, I don't get it. Like, someone else is just like, oh, it's the most amazing, most inspiring thing I've ever seen. Yeah.
I'll pay $1 million for it. And you're just like, okay.
Yeah, and I quite often say you better use it's better use of your time, rather than being busy with clients who aren't right for you. It's better to spend that time trying to figure out how to connect with the right clients, how to find the right clients, because ultimately you're going to be happier. And it means being more confident now to say no to the wrong clients is actually going to give you time and space to say yes to the right clients.
Correct.
In the future.
100%. Yeah. I'm going to take that. I'm going to write that down and be like, okay, this is the reason why I'm saying no to you. Because SJ told me, I say no to you.
SJ said I'm not allowed to waste my time on you.
Exactly. But really, I mean, oh gosh, talk about time, right? Even having a family and owning a business, you don't have a lot of. No. And you just don't have a lot of time left over to do really anything else. Yeah. And I definitely realized that. And with that balance of like, gosh, like, how much time do I spend on my business during a day? And, however much time I'm spending on that, I'm taking away from my family. Yeah. So yes, you say no to clients that are not a good match for you, because do you really want to spend your time with a wrong client and have that taken away from your family time? Wow. Like that's where, that's where my thought process.
That's a really powerful way of thinking about it. Because I think, we talk about, on your deathbed, you're not going to wish that you did more work, this kind of thing. Yeah. But living that day to day actually does take a lot of strength to just to see what's most important, and to prioritize that and say, like you said, I love my family. And I don't want to waste time on people who are going to drain me because they're not the right client for me. Because if they're not the right client, it can be difficult, either before the wedding or afterwards, if they're complaining about their pictures, or something like that. Like nobody needs that kind of stress. Like, and you're crafting the life that you want to have with your family, and you've got your two precious children. And that's hard. A tricky balance to match. Yeah. So how do you balance? Because you mentioned, talking before, mum guilt is a real thing.
Mom guilt is definitely a real thing, and I don't balance. I really don't know what I'm doing. If you have any suggestions, I'm all for it.
Answers on a postcard. Anyone listening?
Right, I know. Message me, email me. I don't know. Tell me what books I need to read.
Yeah.
Now, for me, I've realized, a few things. One of which is, trying not to, spend time or, work with clients that aren't a good fit, or, with people in general that aren't a good fit for me. And another thing is I've learned, and I'm trying to implement this. Trust me, I am not an expert in work-life balance, but I do try to segment my time throughout the day.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And, first of all, I am not a morning person.
Yeah.
I cannot wake up in the morning, and I'm just not perky. I can't do it in the morning. I'm groggy. I've got glasses on, hair in a bun. And I'm just like, what's happening right now? My brain just doesn't work as fast. My husband, on the other hand, he wakes up, he perks up, and off he goes. And,
hilarious.
We're the complete opposite when it comes to that. But but yeah, I've learned to say, okay, in the mornings, this is what I'm going to be doing. I, make myself breakfast, and then these days, I know with this podcast, it might be, available well after the quarantine
Yes.
is over. But, particularly during this quarantine,
Yeah.
I've done homeschooling in the morning. And then in the afternoon, I am, doing work and emails and, phone calls and all that good stuff. And that's why I'd asked to push our time till 11:30 because
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
I had to homeschool my little ones. And then, and then in the evening, I set time for dinner and family time. And then I, do a little bit more work and just to kind of wrap up
Mhm.
for the day. And then do my bedtime routine, brushing my teeth and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and of course, watching some television, but to wind down at the end of the night.
Yes.
So I have, kind of implemented, but again, I am not 100% with it because there are days where I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to start my day doing something else other than what I had
Yeah.
planned for. But really, it's just trying to segment your day so that you have, time slots for the things that are important to you.
Yes.
Um, you know, Spending time with your family, where, what does that look like in your day? And and making sure that you do have time slots for everything that's important. So
Yes.
yeah,
That's a big tip. Yeah, that's really good. And
yeah,
so
um,
how do you discipline yourself to switch off at the end of the day? Because I think that's often the
oh
hardest thing, to actually go, that's it for the day now. I'm closing my laptop and I'm getting ready for bed, and that the lingering on Instagram or lingering on, tweaking your website, whatever it is that you're doing, that's probably the
yeah,
killer moment at- to actually just go,
yeah.
that's it now.
Oh yeah, no, that's very difficult for me.
Yeah.
Extremely difficult. But I have made it a goal for myself. It was started out small.
Yes.
Actually, this is you're gonna think again, I'm really silly for
I doubt it. I
listening
loved
to
your last ones.
oh gosh. I had a personal trainer for a while. Just to kind of like get me back on track with, health and fitness and all that good stuff. So one of the things that he told me, there's of course fitness goals and all sorts of stuff, but we call this the regenerative goal.
Mhm.
So, which means like, what are you doing in order for you to be able to regenerate? Meaning, whether it's sleep, whether
Yeah,
it's yoga or whatever.
that's
And one
great.
of the things that he challenged me to do is twice a week to shut down at 10:30 p.m. Now,
Brilliant.
it doesn't have to be every single day.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, you start out small. You say, okay, maybe just once a week.
Yeah.
Every Monday night or whatever, I'm going to shut off at 10:30. And then the rest of the week, you can do whatever you want to do and
That's
stay up
good.
however late.
Yeah.
But then that actually got me to going twice a week, then
Mm,
3 times a week.
mm.
And then now it's kind of a habit for me to shut down at that time.
That's so good.
And, you know, gosh, it you can feel you
Mm.
can see it making good changes in your life, because
Yeah.
now I again in the morning I'm still not a morning person even if I shut down at 10:30.
Hilarious.
I just want to curl up in bed. I'm not a morning person. So but it does make it so that my brain kind of, does the shutdown process
Mhm.
at a reasonable hour, and it
Mhm.
makes me feel better in the morning.
Yeah.
Now, that again, that time could be totally different for other people. It could be, midnight or 8 p.m. or whatnot.
Mm.
But I think that, if you want to implement that kind of like a habit or a lifestyle, it just start out really small. Just pick
Yeah.
one day and say, okay, that's the day I want to make sure I shut down at a certain time,
Yeah.
and then make that 2 days, and then sooner or later it just becomes a habit. And so yeah,
That is such a good tip. Such a good tip, because it just makes it manageable, and it makes you think,
yes,
okay, I can
yes,
do once a week, and then like you said,
right.
once you start, you're like, oh, I like this, and then you start doing it more.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Listen, when I set goals for myself, especially like shutting down and doing all
Yeah.
those things, I have to set myself up for success. I can't set myself up for failure. You
Yeah,
know, so
so
I just
true.
think to myself, okay, let's just try once a day. And
Yeah.
that's it. So
That is
that's
such a good tip. That is such a good tip. And just for anybody listening, what we do is that we've both, me and my husband Matt, have set our phones up like a child's phone, because we've got the iPhones and you've got like parental restrictions, so you can lock it at
yes.
certain times. So my phone turns on at 9:30 in the morning and switches off at 9:30 at night, and I've only got certain things like music that I can still access after that, so I can listen
Yeah.
to relaxing music, you know, or
Yeah.
stuff like this.
Yeah.
And I only get 10 minutes on social media and an hour on YouTube, you know, and like stuff like this. And
Oh
if I
my
want more
gosh.
time, I have to go to my husband to put a code in and so it makes me think, do I really need to watch another tiny house video on YouTube, or like, is that probably enough for the
Yeah.
day? And he does the same with me. And so, and it's really, really worked. Really works.
I have not. Okay, we've implemented that for our children. Now, I did not think about that for myself.
Yeah, right. And I'm like laughing at myself that my phone is set up like a child's phone, and so is
Yeah.
my husband's. But I feel freer than I've ever felt in my life, do you know? Because I pick, right, this is how much, and like I started off with half an hour on social media, but because
Right.
it actually took the fun out of it for me, because I was rushing, then thinking, all right, you know, I've got to get through it. And then I realized, oh, I'm actually kind of done in 10 minutes. I just want to check, you know, has anyone got married? Is anyone having a baby? You know, all the kind of news that people announce on social media these days. And then
Right.
after that, I'm like, oh, I'm kind of done now. And so then I said to Matt, just reduce it to 10 minutes. Like, it's fine. And I haven't really needed it. But if I have like something that I really want to do, or if I'm mid-sentence, then I can just go, oh, can you just give me like a few more minutes? I'll just finish the sentence. But it mentally, it breaks the cycle and makes me go, okay, no, I don't think I do need more time. And it was weird to begin with. I felt really agitated. Like, well, what do I do now? Like, I'm kind of almost bored. Like, what do I do? But eventually you start finding things, just even like you said, meditation, you know, yoga, just resting, baking, you know, there's all kinds of stuff in your life. Yeah. For those of you that don't know, Jenny has become a prolific baker during this COVID-19 house arrest.
To my detriment, because I don't know if my pants fit right now, but that's okay.
So far. Did you see there was some meme that went around on Facebook, which was it was two really fat people going, yay, the COVID, you know, the lockdown's over now, how do we get out of our front door?
I'll just, it's you know, that's why balance, right? It's all about balance.
Yeah,
you know, it's especially during this time, it's really you know, everybody going through it, it's very traumatic, it's very difficult, and that's why I'm just like, okay, as much grace as I'm giving out to other people, I have to turn it around and give grace to myself. If it means I want to bake and eat all the soft pretzels in the world, then so be it.
Absolutely. It's so agreed. Just be kind to yourself. Absolutely. Well, I believe that you offer one-to-one mentoring. Is that right, Jenny?
Yes. So one of the things that I wanted to do this year in 2020 is to create a workshop. And because I've gotten a lot of messages and a lot of inquiries like, oh, like, do you, you know, offer workshops, and do you offer mentoring sessions? And then I, you know, was thinking about all these things that we've talked about, you know, branding and marketing, you know, all these things that I did that I found to be successful for myself. I want to chat with everybody else. And so I said, okay, maybe this is a good time for me to kind of build a curriculum and put together a workshop. However, with the things that are happening right now, you know, being together is not doable. And so I have decided, okay, then let's do this virtually. Let's offer virtual mentoring sessions. And I've segmented it into two different segments. The first one is just all about photos, like what's in my bag, what's my workflow, you know, how I do my contracts, and all the way to how do I deliver my images, and basically to help with also like how do I approach a wedding day. So that's one chunk. And then the other chunk is the marketing and branding part of it. And then that also includes like a portfolio review and just, you know, and talk through things like, oh, what are publications looking for? What are, what do they like and not like, and what I've found successful and not, in the past few years.
Yeah.
So, and I divided it into two just because, I mean, there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And I can chat for days on end about all this stuff. So, I had to kind of break it up into two chunks. And so, yeah, so people are able to, basically, figure out what their need is. And then, yeah, and then that's why I broke it up into two.
I love that. And I feel like we've only scratched the surface of your wealth of knowledge when it comes to marketing and branding. And so, any of you listening, and I just think this is a golden opportunity to learn from someone who's got an MBA in marketing. She clearly knows what she's talking about, because she started photographing weddings, and the very next year was awarded best photographer, and has been ever since, and I think this is an amazing opportunity. So definitely take advantage of this and learn everything you can from Jenny. I think she's got so much to share. I feel like we could just talk and we still wouldn't exhaust what you know about marketing and branding. So where can people go to connect with you for mentoring sessions?
On my website, jennyquicksall.com, or you can just email me, Jenny at jennyquicksall.com, and then we can go from there and connect and chat just like this.
Amazing. I love that. Well, Jenny, thank you so much for coming and just sharing so much of your story and your knowledge with us. We're so appreciative and so honored to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It really, really is an honor. I know I said this to you already before, but when you reached out, I was so happy and surprised and feel very honored that you've reached out. So,
oh, I'm so glad. Well, hopefully we'll maybe have you on again in the future. I just feel like we've got so much more we can talk about. So thank you so much.
If you enjoyed today's episode, you can find more interviews, tips and inspiration in the Love Light Fine Art community on Facebook. You can also follow along with each new episode on the Love Light YouTube, podcast and Instagram. And don't forget to visit www.sarahjaneethan.co.uk/lovelight for information on training, real life wedding workshops and online courses to develop your own fine art photography and connect with more of the clients you love.